The Young and the Restless spoilers Saturday's full episodes May 24, 2025 in the heart of Genoa City's bustling business district, where glass towers glitter beneath the midday sun and the hum of ambition never falters. The latest chapter in Audra Charles's meteoric rise is unfolding with all the high-stakes drama one could expect from the corridors of power. Only weeks ago, Audra stood at a crossroads, her fledgling company teetering on the brink of obscurity as she fought tooth and nail for every client, every dollar of seed funding, every sliver of recognition in a world dominated by corporate titans. Now, thanks to an unexpected infusion of capital from none other than Victor Newman himself, the landscape has shifted irrevocably, and with it, the loyalties and whispered alliances that shape Genoa City's social and financial hierarchy. At the center of this maelstrom stands Audra, radiant and resolute, her eyes alight with a quiet confidence that borders on defiance. "I'm moving forward," she declares to Nate Hastings in a hushed corner of her elegantly appointed office, the late afternoon light casting long shadows across her mahogany desk. The phrase is simple, yet laden with promise, and for Nate, whose own career has been defined by pragmatism and cautious maneuvering, it sounds almost reckless. But Audra has never been one to shrink from risk. She sees in Victor's largesse not just a lifeline, but an invitation to transcend the limitations that once threatened to define her. With her signature blend of charm and steely resolve, she assures Nate that nothing can stop me now, and he must admit that he believes her. Perhaps more profoundly than he cares to admit, for in her unwavering conviction he senses the spark of a force that could reshape the very foundations of every boardroom in town. Across town, in a quieter wing of the GCAC building, Aristotle Dumas's legal eagle, consummate insider, and longtime confidant to many of Genoa City's wealthiest families, finds himself confronted by a proposition so audacious it borders on ludicrous. Damian Kane, whose own agenda is cloaked in layers of plausible deniability, has extended an offer, leveraged Dumas's unparalleled access to gather intelligence on Winter's enterprises, the hospitality juggernaut helmed by Lily Winters and her cadre of trusted advisors. It is, on its face, the kind of covert op that would make headlines were it ever to be exposed, an outright betrayal of professional ethics, cloaked under the guise of competitive strategy. Yet when Damian lays out the terms, his tone insinuating that in this cutthroat environment one must be wise to every backroom deal, Aristotle's reaction is as swift as it is decisive: he will not bite. He refuses not out of moral high ground alone, but because he recognizes that allowing Damian a foothold into Winters's inner workings would be to compromise the integrity that underpins every relationship he has painstakingly built over decades. The exchange is polite, almost cordial. The kind of veneer that masks a decisive no, but behind Aristotle's measured smile lies an unshakable certainty. Some lines, once crossed, can never be uncrossed, and ambition unchecked can become self-destructive. As Damian departs, Aristotle watches him go, a flicker of concern in his eyes, knowing that ambition's darker side can consume even the most well-intentioned among them. Meanwhile, the gears of Genoa City's social engine continue to turn, and it is in the grand lobby of Audra's newly expanded offices that the convergence takes place. Nate Hastings, ever the attentive listener, has invited Kyle Abbott to join him for a private conversation, ostensibly to discuss strategy as Audra's company moves into its next phase of growth. Yet when Clare Newman materializes behind Kyle, her presence sharpens the atmosphere like the crack of a dagger's blade. With a cool professionalism that barely conceals her curiosity, Clare addresses Audra directly: "I understand Victor Newman is backing your venture." Her tone suggests skepticism rather than envy, as though she's verifying a rumor that feels too fantastical to be true. Audra meets Clare's gaze with composure, acknowledging that the deal is real but insisting that this business arrangement concerns me and my vision alone, not Victor, not Kyle. The statement is precise, calculated, yet not without warmth. Audra extends her hand to Clare in a gesture that speaks of mutual respect, even as the unspoken dynamics swirl beneath the surface. Nate looks on, surprised but not displeased, while Kyle, who has navigated his own share of corporate intrigue, offers Audra a sincere wish of luck, nodding as though he comprehends the magnitude of what she has undertaken. In that moment, as the chandeliers overhead shimmer with reflected light, Audra senses the undercurrents of alliance and rivalry that link every individual in that room. She is keenly aware that Clare's endorsement, though subtly delivered, carries weight, for Clare possesses a unique vantage point as both an Abbot and a Newman, straddling the fault lines between two of Genoa City's most formidable dynasties. When Nate breaks the silence, his voice low but earnest, he asks the question on everyone's mind: what is your endgame, Audra? Where do you go from here? It is less an interrogation than an invitation to unveil the blueprint she has sketched behind closed doors. Audra's response is delivered without hesitation: the world is vast, and there is room for many companies to flourish. Her words, though seemingly broad, hint at a strategy that extends beyond mere survival or incremental growth. She envisions a brand that not only competes but collaborates, one that will leverage partnerships, diversify services, and perhaps even reshape the philanthropic landscape that intersects with her industry. Kyle steps forward, his expression reflecting both admiration and a hint of nostalgia, as he credits Clare with catalyzing his own shift in perspective. Not long ago, he explains, he would have viewed Audra's ascent as a threat, or at best, a curiosity. But thanks to Clare's insights into Audra's integrity and vision, Kyle now sees this unfolding saga as one he's proud to witness. To Audra's relief and quiet delight, he declares, "All credit belongs to you, Clare, for changing how I see the future." In that instant, old rivalries soften, alliances realign, and Audra stands at the nexus of an emergent coalition that could redefine Genoa City's corporate hierarchy. As the afternoon light gives way to a golden glow, the players in this drama disperse, Clare to her next meeting at Newman Enterprises, Kyle to oversee a new line of product launches at Forrester Creations, Nate to finalize the details of his next investigative report, and Aristotle to draft the memorandum that will formalize his refusal of Damian's proposition. Audra remains behind, gazing out of her floor-to-ceiling windows at the cityscape that stretches beyond the horizon. She allows herself a moment of introspection, acknowledging the delicate balance she must maintain between bold aspiration and prudent restraint. The seed capital from Victor has granted her the runway to dream bigger than ever before, but she knows that every breakthrough breeds new challenges, and that true success will hinge on her ability to navigate both the overt contests in the boardroom and the subtler tests of character in the corridors of influence. In the days to come, the ripple effects of Victor's investment will become increasingly visible: new hires staffing Audra's rapidly expanding offices, strategic alliances forged with complementary businesses, and the first tentative forays into international markets. Yet behind every announcement and press release will lie the unspoken recognition that Audra Charles, once underestimated by Genoa City's power brokers, has emerged not merely as a beneficiary of old money patronage, but as a formidable leader in her own right. Her endgame, as Nate so aptly observed, extends far beyond securing initial sponsorship. It encompasses a vision of innovation, collaboration, and sustainable growth that few have dared to articulate in a world where fortunes are won and lost on the slenderest of advantages. And so, as the curtain falls on this chapter of ambition and alliance, one thing is clear. In a city defined by legacy conglomerates and entrenched hierarchies, Audra Charles has positioned herself as a catalyst for change, an entrepreneur who refuses to be confined by the expectations of those who came before her. With Nate Hastings chronicling her every move, Aristotle Dumas upholding the ethics that safeguard the industry, and unexpected supporters like Clare Newman and Kyle Abbott standing at her side, Audra's journey is only beginning. The question that remains is not whether she will succeed; she has already proven that she will, but how far she is willing to go when the stakes are nothing less than the future of Genoa City itself. In the soft morning light filtering through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Audra Charles's sleek office, the clink of cutlery and the muted hum of conversation filled the private dining area where Nate Hastings and Audra sat across from each other, plates of fresh fruit and artisanal pastries untouched before them. Their discussion of business ventures and future projections had seemed promising until Kyle Abbott, a rare early riser by his standards, appeared in the doorway with Clare Newman at his side, his forehead creased in that familiar Abbott expression that signaled both purpose and wariness. "Enjoy your breakfast," Kyle offered, nodding toward Nate's steaming cup of espresso and the elaborate platter that Audra had arranged for their meeting. The gesture seemed innocuous enough, but as he and Claire retreated to their own table, Nate's brow furrowed and he leaned forward, lowering his voice to a conspiratorial whisper. "What the hell was that about?" he asked, glancing over at the pair now animatedly gesturing toward Audra's corner of the room. Audra, taken aback by Nate's abrupt question, blinked in genuine confusion. "I don't understand what you mean," she replied, her tone calm but her pulse quickening as she followed his gaze toward Kyle and Claire's table. Nate set down his cup with deliberate care and fixed her with an unblinking stare. "Why are you suddenly being so nice to Kyle when you've made no secret of the fact you can't stand him? What's your endgame here?" Audra inhaled slowly, summoning the practiced composure that had carried her through countless boardroom confrontations. With a small, rehearsed smile, she closed the distance between honesty and half-truth. "The last thing I need right now is more discord," she said, her voice measured to sound both conciliatory and decisive. "This partnership with Victor Newman. It's too important to jeopardize over old grudges. I'm keeping the peace." Nate's eyes narrowed, unconvinced. He had known Audra too long to accept such a facile explanation without probing beneath the surface. "That situation with your company never made sense to me," he insisted, leaning even closer so that only she could hear. "Money from Victor? Sudden friendliness toward Kyle? There's something off. I want the whole truth this time, Audra. What's really going on?" His intensity was tempered by concern, but Audra could feel the weight of his expectations pressing down on her. She offered him a polite nod, the tiniest flicker of guilt darting across her features, but remained silent as Claire and Kyle's laughter drifted back to their table, sealing the confession she refused to give. Meanwhile, at the adjacent table where morning rays danced against the marble surface, Claire Newman regarded Kyle Abbott with an inscrutable expression. "Why are you being so kind to Audra?" she asked quietly, her voice edged with the cool pragmatism of a Newman who had seen enough corporate maneuvering to recognize every hidden motive. Kyle shrugged, stirring his coffee absent-mindedly, eyes never leaving Audra's retreating back. "Because it's deception," he said simply, his tone low and deliberate. Claire's eyebrows rose in surprise. "That goody two-shoes who once schemed against your entire family," she pressed, skepticism shading her words. Kyle nodded without defensiveness. "Exactly. She fooled every one of us, and if she's playing Victor as her pawn, I need to stop her before she does real damage." He paused, choosing his next words with care. "Victor told me Audra isn't a threat, but I've always felt uncomfortable around her. This sudden change feels like a setup." Claire leaned back in her chair, a flicker of admiration in her eyes. "If you continue down this path, you know it could blow up. And not in anyone's favor," she warned. "Tread carefully, Kyle. Sometimes the truth you unearth can ruin more than it frees." Across town, in the honey-toned hallways of the GCAC, Damian Kane strode alongside Lily Winters, crisp morning light illuminating his tailored suit and the rare hint of uncertainty on his face. He had just pledged his acceptance of Lily's offer, to join her team in a capacity that promised insider access to Atlantis Dumas's legal affairs. And he felt a thrill of anticipation mixed with a sting of apprehension. "I'm ready to proceed," he announced, voice steady despite the knots in his stomach. "Once I'm embedded, I'll start gathering intel on Dumas the moment I step foot in his offices." Lily slowed her pace, turning to face him with a measured expression. The corner of her lip quirked in what Damian interpreted as skepticism. "I'm not convinced that plan is our best option," she cautioned, her tone professional but tinged with genuine concern. "Dumas is more guarded than you realize, and if he suspects we're surveilling him, the fallout could be catastrophic, for you and for Winters Enterprises." Damian's confidence wavered, his vision of playing corporate puppeteer suddenly clouded by the possibility of exposure and retribution. As Lily continued down the corridor toward her own office, Damian hovered for a moment, uncertainty etched across his features, realizing that espionage at this level required more nuance, and perhaps deeper loyalty, than he had prepared to offer. Back at Audra's office, Nate slid out of his seat and moved to the window, looking out over the cityscape as he considered the tangled web of alliances and rivalries that defined Genoa City's power structure. When he turned back, his gaze was firm and unyielding. Audra met it squarely, acknowledging without words that the silence between them had become its own confession. They both knew that the answers he sought would come at a price, and that in this game of influence and ambition, trust was the most precious and dangerous currency of all. In kitchens and boardrooms, over breakfast and in hushed strategy sessions, the stage had been set for yet another act in a drama that would stretch the boundaries of loyalty and reveal, once again, that in Genoa City, nothing was ever as straightforward as it seemed. The only question left was who would emerge unscathed when the next move was played. And whether Audra's carefully calculated maneuvers would prove bold enough to secure her future or reckless enough to undo everything she had fought to build. The next morning, the tension between Damian and Lily carried a different, sharper edge as they convened once more in the glass-walled conference room overlooking Genoa City's skyline. Damian, brow furrowed, recounted the unsettling exchange he'd had with Aristotle Dumas's attorney, Amanda Sinclair, the evening before. She'd assured him in no uncertain terms that her message was meant for them both, that Dumas harbored no designs on Winter's enterprises. Yet every instinct in Damian's gut rebelled against this apparent dismissal. "It struck me as odd," he admitted, pacing behind Lily's sleek mahogany desk as sunlight slanted through the blinds. He paused by the window, arms crossed, and asked the question that had kept him awake half the night, "Is that really the heart of the matter?" Lily, seated with the poise of someone accustomed to steering corporate ships through stormy waters, regarded him with calm authority. "Devon and Amanda share a history as tangled as any you've seen in this city," she replied, voice measured, "and I intend not to meddle in matters of the past." Damian's jaw tightened. He reached for his phone and tapped out a brief message, an unspoken challenge. When the call connected, he heard Dumas's familiar, coldly polite tone, instructing him that his new supervisor at Winters had no objection to Damian's investigative mandate. Relief and confusion warred across Damian's face as he returned the device to his pocket. "So my job offer stands?" he asked Lily, almost incredulously. Without hesitation, Lily leaned forward, her eyes resolute. "I want you here, Damian. And I will not rescind the offer." With that assurance, Damian exhaled, tension draining from his shoulders as he prepared to navigate the labyrinthine loyalties of his new assignment. Later that afternoon, the warm, aromatic glow of crimson lights provided a stark contrast to the clinical brightness of corporate offices. There, among the clinking of coffee cups and soft jazz playing overhead, Amanda Sinclair sat across from her oldest friend, Abby Newman, whose radiant smile and flushed cheeks spoke of nuptials recently celebrated. "Congratulations on the wedding," Amanda began, reaching across the small round table to touch Abby's hand in genuine warmth. Abby beamed, tucking a stray lock of hair behind her ear. "Thank you, Amanda. I've been meaning to tell you about my new gig. Working for Aristotle Dumas himself." Amanda's eyes flickered briefly, a subtle tightening at the corners that Abby didn't miss. "What exactly does that entail?" she asked, voice curious yet cautious. Leaning back, Amanda folded her arms, transparent confidence masking a swirl of conflicting emotions. "Nothing devious," she insisted. "I'm not here to help Dumas engineer a takeover of Devon's company as revenge." Abby's expression softened, but concern lingered. "You're sure there's no plot against Winters?" she pressed gently. Amanda's lips curved in a rueful smile as she recounted, half joking, half somber, the memory of walking in on Abby and Devon in a moment of intimate betrayal on Abby's own living room couch. "But you got what you wanted, didn't you? Chance and I were collateral in your grand design." Abby's eyes widened at the admission, a flush creeping into her cheeks. Amanda sighed, her tone reflective. I believe the finest revenge is to live well, to build something you can be proud of, rather than nurse grudges. Abby reached for her latte, swirling the foam thoughtfully. I guess time has a way of changing the stakes, she murmured. As the afternoon light waned and crimson lights' lanterns flickered on, casting gentle halos over each table, Amanda and Abby lingered over stories of new beginnings and old wounds. Amanda's truth. The one she'd withheld from Nate, the one she had almost hidden even from Abby, hovered between them like the last note of a song, unresolved yet charged with possibility. In the quiet hum of the cafe, the sins of the past and the ambitions of the present swirled together, setting the stage for alliances that could topple empires or forge new dynasties. And while Amanda knew she had navigated another day without revealing all she felt, she also recognized that every secret carried a price. And that in Genoa City, the cost of silence could be far higher than any disclosure. As she rose to leave, Abby's parting smile carried both forgiveness and a question. In a world where loyalties shift like sand, was living well truly enough?